You had this really interesting conversation with Tulsi Gabbard, and I enjoyed your conversation with her, but it got me thinking about endorsements. And the left loves to talk about celebrity endorsements, obviously Oprah and Taylor Swift being the most prominent now. But I started to think about this, that I know everyone gets excited because she's got this big name, Oprah Winfrey, Taylor Swift. But the passion and the commitment that someone like Tulsi brings, I think is going to be a lot more impactful. And the way that he's using her as a surrogate, I think is actually much more impactful. Do you agree?
I think the most impactful thing I have seen in American politics, I can't say impactful because I don't know if it's going to work, but I think the most important thing I've ever seen, the most amazing and the strongest I've ever seen, I think, in American politics is Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Elon Musk, Alan Dershowitz, all coming out and saying, I'm not necessarily stopping being a Democrat. I just can't be that kind of Democrat. The Democratic Party has abandoned all of its principles. And I think it's such a danger that I'm going to stand with Donald Trump. I've never seen that before. You'll see it from time to time with, the people who are always on the fence. Robert F. Kennedy is an icon, obviously. Alan Dershowitz has always been a Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard ran for the president as a Democrat. This is remarkable. Elon Musk, he's coming out and standing with Donald Trump, a guy who didn't in 2016, and is more of a center left than anything else. I think this is remarkable. And I honestly, Sean, I don't understand why, at least in the polls, we haven't seen more of an impact from that.
It's funny. You literally read my list. It was Elon Musk, RFK, and the reason that I thought this was interesting, because I don't put a ton of stock into endorsements. Like, so what?
Agreed.
Taylor Swift. If I want, I went and saw, I will admit this, okay? Just forgive me if you care. I went and saw James Taylor the other night. I like his music. I've been seeing him since college. Yeah. I don't want to hear about his politics. I know where he stands. I like the music, although he is getting older, but that's a side point. But I could see somebody saying, I like Taylor Swift's music, and that's what she's apparently good at. But I don't really care what she thinks about politics, right? I don't, if somebody comes to me and says, Sean, I really like your show, I'm thinking about having surgery. What do you think? I'd say I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Correct.
The thing about the people that you mentioned, though, Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy, they are passionate about issues, Tulsi Gabbard. And I kind of go, if you're a follower of theirs, you follow them probably because you care about a particular set of issues that impact your life. And I actually think that we're underplaying the potential impact that they'll have, because if you like Robert Kennedy and he says this guy Trump gets it, you'll go, all right, I'll support him. I don't think because I like Shake It Up that I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris because I like a Taylor Swift song. I don't.
So here's what I think has to happen for maximum amount of impact. You remember when George W. Bush was running? It wasn't going well for him. At the very beginning, and he needed a game changer. And so he announced, his Department of Defense. He put this team around him, and all of a sudden you were like, oh my gosh, he's got the dream team. I think if Donald Trump would take this a step further and say, this is the guy who's going to clean out medical, I'm going to make him, Department of Health and Housing or whatever. I'm going to, RFK, I'm going to put him in charge of intelligence and clean house. I'm going to take Elon Musk and I'm going to put him at whatever. If he actually announced a team using these people, I'm putting as our Secretary of Defense, Tulsi Gabbard, I think it would cement in their mind, oh, this is not just an endorsement. This is a team going in with Donald Trump that's going to change the world. I think that's the step I think that's missing here that George W. Bush took in 2000 that made all the difference for him.
You know, you're saying that now. I think about him announcing those judges during the
Yes.
2016 race, and he was like, "Listen,
Yes.
here's my list. You don't believe me? Here's the list of the people. If you like them, this is what you'll get." And I think you're on to something. So let's play this out for a second. You mentioned Secretary of Defense or whatever. What do you think the positions or the people are that would be most impactful to get people right now to say, okay, I'm buying into a team, not just one player?
I would actually name Elon Musk as, I don't. It would have to be a special. I hate these things, but a czar. It'd have to be something that you name, and he is in charge of going through, and he's starting right now, so we can hit the ground running. He is finding how we can weed this out effectively and make the government more responsive to people. Name it. Show us how it's going to work. Then and I think Tulsi would be good for the Secretary of Defense. She is not pro-war. She hates the way the Pentagon is being run. I'll tell you, we wouldn't have gone to Afghanistan pull out of Afghanistan like we did with her as Secretary of Defense. I think she should have that. Robert Kennedy, I'm not sure, because he is so good on COVID and the pharmaceutical companies and health. And it's weird because I'm changing my feelings about some of the things he's saying as I'm doing more research. I'm not sure if he should go there or if he should go to Intel, because if there's one family and one guy in that family that has a thing against the intelligence agencies and their collusion and everything else, it would be Robert F. Kennedy. And so I think he would be tremendous to clean out the intelligence industrial state, which has to be done. You've
had conversations that you just mentioned, getting to know these people. When you walked into the interviews that you had with some of these people, you're a very strong, opinionated guy. Did you think, okay, I think I know who this RFK guy is, or I think I know who Tulsi Gabbard is? Did anything surprise you? Because I also know that you do a ton of research. Like, your books are amazing. They're very well thought out, very well researched, and you come with facts and figures. I mean, your whiteboards are notorious where this is you. So are you ever shocked based on the amount of research that you always do when you tackle a subject or an interview? When you have that conversation, you go, I didn't expect that of Tulsi Gabbard or RFK.
One just happened this week. I was talking to Shanahan, vice presidential candidate under Bobby Kennedy. And she just kind of threw out, I don't believe, we were talking about this feeling where when you first are exposed to what the machine is and you really understand, oh my gosh, it's nothing like I thought it was. It's actually really corrupt. You kind of go through this period of mourning, personal mourning, where you're like, oh my gosh. And then if you can get past that feeling, then you start saying, well, I want to fix it. And she was talking about that. And she said, because I don't believe anything that I used to believe. She said, I thought it was absolute nonsense crackpot stuff that the 2020 election was stolen. And then she just went on, and I said, hang on just a second. Do you believe it was stolen now? And she said, oh, absolutely.
Really?
That shocked me, because that's a massive turnaround from somebody who just happened to watch the machine from the inside.
Yeah, I get that. It's sometimes people who don't, and it's a lot of institutions. You believe that it's got to operate this way, or there's got to be well-meaning, and then you get inside and you go, there's no way that it really operates like this. And so we've talked about the people. I want to talk about the tactics for a minute. Yeah. Donald Trump, he was on Gutfeld the other night. He walked into a crypto bar in New York and purchased something.
It's action by a president on the Bitcoin protocol. History. You know what that means?
History. And I've been doing this for 30 years. Did my first campaign in 1994, Contract with America stuff. And there was always this, you walk down the street, you shake hands with the shop owners, and I'm watching the Trump tactics. and the people he's talking to, the Nelk boys, and he goes. I mean, the alternative media. To me, this is fascinating watching a 78-year-old man embrace these tactics that normally you would be having a bunch of young whippersnappers saying, Mr. Trump, let's go into this crypto bar and you buy something. And, I could see him being like, I don't even know what you're talking about. He's like, he was so proud of I know, but it's so fascinating to watch this. Here's the guy that's on the cutting edge of tactics, doing shows, showing up in places. The rally he had in New York. It's like all of these things.
Did you watch all of that, Sean?
I can't say I watch every moment of it, but
I watched a good portion of it too. I didn't watch all of it. But I thought that was one of the best speeches he's ever given. I mean, the guy I wrote to him last night. I'm like, you are on fire right now. Even his teleprompter work was so good. He's internalized these things. I don't know if that's the shooting or just because of everything he's gone through. But he was just so strong in that. He amazes me, and I don't know who came up with, hey, let's do alternative media here. Not that he's running. I mean, every time I've ever seen that done, it's because Kamala doesn't want to do an interview with somebody, or Joe Biden doesn't want to, or Obama doesn't want to because he's trouble. So let me go to these people who do an interview with him in a bathtub. This is not running from it. This is embracing. And it shocks me every time I hear him speak or if I'm with him. He has a handle on all of this stuff. He's probably the, I hate to say it this way, but the hippest, coolest 78-year-old I've ever met. And his command of the knowledge of everything that is going on currently is truly remarkable for a guy who is as busy as he is. But I agree with you, Sean. I think his tactics now of going alternative, he reminds me of Bill Clinton. You remember when Bill Clinton played the saxophone and went on Arsenio Hall and everybody was like, what the hell is this? It worked. And while we don't have a mass audience anymore, he is hitting these audiences in the right way. And he changes, not that he changes, you know him. He doesn't change. He shows a different side of himself, which has not been seen by most people. And he is just, he's likable. He's just really likable in those scenes.
So I have known him a while, like 10 years, right? You and I were at that Moms for Liberty event in D.C., I don't know, 10 days ago, a week ago. He gets up there and he has this discussion. And that's, and I was telling my wife when I got home, I mentioned this to the panel yesterday. He gets up there and tells that story about The Apprentice. Now, I know the national media and a bunch of leftists are like, who cares? Listening to how he played ABC off NBC and da-da-da-da, like, it's unscripted, it's authentic, it's real. I was so captivated by the discussion. And Tiffany Justice, who's the head of Moms for Liberty, was asking him the questions. And to your point, it was like, he has a way of storytelling that's captivating. And it doesn't sound like a politician getting up there giving a speech, reading sound bites. And I found myself, after knowing him as long as I have, going, I'm still captivated by these stories. And I'm sure somebody else had heard it before. But for me, I never heard that. And I was like, I'm watching everyone in the room thinking, this is really cool. Here's a guy who's running for president telling us about how, he made the deal for The Apprentice. And how Mark Burnett came in and you heard the whole thing, but I was just like, this is it. Like, this is, I feel he's relatable. He's excited. It's not normal.
Yeah. I was with him last weekend. What day is it? It's Friday. So it was last weekend I was with him and he was giving a speech and he just talked about what it was like to watch the operation of al-Baghdadi. And there's a comedian out there who's like, al-Baghdadi, he cried like a baby. I wouldn't have cried. I was waiting for him to do that, but he didn't. But it was fascinating. And when he does those things, and if you're there and you're listening to him, it feels like your friend is president and he's telling you, you wouldn't believe this, man. This is so cool. You know what I mean? And I think that's what captivates his audiences when they're there. I wish people would actually listen to those parts of the speeches. He was so passionate about where we are as a nation and what the consequences are after this election, because we are at the crossroads. We are at the end, Sean. We either save the republic or we are the generation that loses the republic. It's one of the two. And he was very, very clear on that, but he was not yelling and screaming. He wasn't making threats. He wasn't, saying they've got to be stopped no matter the cost, no matter. He was just explaining, this is what we're up against. This is who they are, what they believe. This is what I believe. And I think it's what you believe and most Americans. And he was, in many ways, to me, he was so relatable because you remember that line when Dukakis, was on the tank?
Yep.
And was it him that said in the Saturday Night Live skit, I can't believe I'm losing to this guy? That is so Donald Trump right now. I mean, I can't believe it's this close.
Well, so I want to ask you, but it's funny because every time when you were talking about that, I keep thinking back to that time when I was at Mar-a-Lago. The president, we go into the skiff. We're watching the bombing of Syria, and we walk up and re-engage in dinner with President Xi, the president of China, and he just goes, "Sorry, important business. We had to drop some bombs." And it was like, oh my God, like that was the most undiplomatic thing. But I'll tell you what, the look in Xi's eye was, holy crap. Yeah. I can't believe this is happening. And it's just, but the message is clear. I will do what it takes. And I don't know. He always communicates in such a fascinating way. But I want to touch on.
I think that's changed. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. I think that's changed. I think these assassination attempts have changed him.
Oh, okay. Tell me why.
Have you ever had a serious death threat where it came close?
Not as close as it did getting shot, but I've had some health issues.
Okay. So, I mean, I've had it close, not Donald Trump close, but I've had the guy right here and he was taken to the ground. And that clarifies things. You start to say, at least I did, do I believe what I'm saying enough to die for it? And I'm not going to say things that are not worth dying for. And I think that this really clarified in his mind that I could die for this. Is this really? Is this just about me, the presidency, or is this really about the principles and the people? And I think it has been for him the whole time. But I just think it clarified on these are the times that try men's souls. We might lose our lives for this, but we're moving forward.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.